Мы живем во времена, когда маркетологи сталкиваются с кучей проблем, но еще и сталкиваются с огромным количеством возможностей. И это тоже проблема или возможность. Просто рассказывать истории уже недостаточно. За словами должны стоять еще и реальные дела. Как брендам не только рассказывать, но еще и выходить за рамки этого повествования. Об этом лучше всего нам расскажет приглашенный гость и эксперт в области разработки интерактивного опыта потребителей мультимедиа и сторителлинга Клаус Сомер, основатель дизайн-студии Adventure Lab. Давайте поприветствуем нашего спикера. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. Good morning. Can everybody hear me all right? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's see what we got here. I'm going to talk about from storytelling to story doing this morning and kick this amazing day off. Also, for you to leave with some new perspectives and new ways of looking at things. But before we do that, we have a little special something. It's a special experience for one of you. And what I would like you to do now is to look under the pillows, under chairs, under one of them, there's an envelope. If you're the lucky person to find that envelope, hold it up and you'll get a special treat. And it might be under a pillow where nobody's sitting, so feel free to roam around and even get out of the couch and look under the pillows here. Now, the one who finds the pillow or finds the letter under the pillow is going to go out of this room, come back, and while you're gone, you're going to have an amazing little experience that we're going to get back to later in the day. So anybody found the envelope? You got it? Okay. So we're going to have a guide guiding you out of here. Oh, look at that, right here. This gentleman. Isn't that great? Whoa. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll see you later. You'll have the opportunity to take the presentation. Take it away. Take her away. Take it away.
Аплодисментами давайте проводим. По одному каждого из вас сегодня будут увозить, видимо, куда-то. Мы надеемся, она вернется.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of storytelling, that is what we call a mystery box. Not a mystery letter, but a mystery box. Somebody leaves, and what's going to happen when she comes back? We don't know that yet. And that helps us creating some sort of intrigue, actually. And that's just one of the differences there is between storytelling and information and so on. And some of that I'm going to talk to you about today. And also, you should know there will be 2 questions along the way this morning. And the questions, you're going to have this app where you can choose between different answers. And we're going to get back to that, but there's going to be just a few questions. And the good thing about that is you'll get a chance to answer the questions without anybody knowing what you're actually answering. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that comes about. But that's me. Surely looks like it. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of my background. And I started doing storytelling back in high school and so on and so on. Basically, I've been working with stories and experiences and advertising and training professionals and involving and training the next generation of media and communication entertainment professionals for quite some time, actually. So that doesn't make me feel old, but because working with these things is just simply, it keeps on just being intriguing and interesting, and things keeps on evolving and so forth, so forth. I have spent quite some years in the advertising and the marketing industry, and then I came into the experience industry. And the interesting thing now is that everything is coming together. advertising becomes experience, and brands go beyond communication, and so forth and so on. So, among other things, I am the CEO and founder of Adventure Lab, which is a design and storytelling collective, and we work with getting storytelling and experience together. So these are like the things we're merging together here. It's like the story, the experience, technology, and the thing that anchors everything here is the story experience as it is experienced by the audience. So I'm going to talk to some of these things. I'm sorry if it feels a bit like a roller coaster sometimes, because I'm going to talk about quite a few different things here. Also, you're going to see glimpses of some video. We're not going to spend all of this morning looking at videos. Afterwards, if you go to integratedstorytelling.com, we're going to put the videos up there so you can see them in full length. Some of them are there already. So at Adventure Lab, we work with new ways of experiencing the brand. And the brand sometimes are theme parks and attractions. Other times it's new products, sometimes it's other things. But a lot of our business is actually, to this day, training and facilitating these processes. So we work with different kinds of marketing associations in terms of bringing the mindset from the marketing communication onto the audience experience. So, storytelling to story doing. One thing is telling the story, another thing is to make it come alive, the living story. So we can also speak to this as if we're talking about from telling the story to living your story. You need to live your story as a brand, and your audience are your stakeholders, your customers, your employees, and so forth and so on. They need to live your story as well. If you succeed in that, then it comes alive in a multitude of different ways. And your brand comes alive in a multitude of different ways. So if we look at traditional marketing and advertising, for many years it's been like this. We're shouting our message into the heads of the consumer. Buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Please buy my stuff. And this is just escalating all the time. So when I grew up, 20 years ago, we talked about you get 3,000 brand signals exposed to you every day. Now it's 5,000, escalating by digital media and so on. So how do you get through to people? Because what you really want to do is not for them to sit patiently and listen, but to do your story, to tell your story. So you become something that's worth talking about. You might not be able to dictate in detail what that story is about exactly, but the gist of it, the spirit of it, the essence of your brand comes alive in many new ways and takes hold, and you get through to people, and they remember you, which is a hard thing to do. So it's so easily to get enamored with all sorts of technical stuff here. It's like a new social media gadget coming up and another gizmo over here. And having worked with digital media for more than 25 years, what you learn is that a lot of it are like cherry blossoms. Now, cherry blossoms are lovely. They blossom for around 2 weeks and then they're gone. And we see a lot of the same thing with technology. So if we see the life cycle of technology, we have things that never ever get adopted by a large audience. But the first mover thing is great, which is great if your customer base is that of the first movers and a very limited group. And also we see current technology that might be the big thing, and somebody else is coming in and taking over here. So working with different technologies is not a question about falling in love with a special technology, but going beneath and going beyond. So we're back again talking about people and talking about audience. There's technology out there that is amazing, but people are not using it. So in terms of marketing, it becomes irrelevant. You know, it's really great for the nerds and the geeks, but to reach a wide audience, not so much. So what do we do then? Because we want to have the possibility of applying new technology. Well, it's really a question about finding concepts that outlast the technology. They have to be deeper than that. They have to be rooted in what is our connection between us, the brand, and the audience here. So, because all that is new will eventually be old. I can speak to that. So, one example of something that lasts and have had a huge influence is a book that came out 120 years ago by H.G. Wells, called War of the Worlds. It has been the background for numerous pictures and musicals and so on. And this year it was launched as a fully immersive experience in London. Now people can go in and experience this invasion from Mars. It's a combination of live theater, of VR, of all sorts of different things that really puts the audience in the center of this whole experience. Now, why is the War of the Worlds such a good story to work with? Well, basically what H.G. Wells did 120 years ago, he defined how we see an evil invasion from another planet. Everything after that book is molded in the concept that he has. The concept became so strong that it became the way that many people think of what would happen if we get invaded by creatures from outer space. And even in a 1938 radio show in the US, they did it as a newscast. And people thought that the US was actually getting invaded by creatures from Mars, and it caused a mass panic. So this is a concept that goes beyond just the story and just the technology. And you can keep on, there's games and all sorts of stuff here. You can keep on working with it in many different ways. And we're going to see new ways coming up as well. So let's just look at the power of the story. Why is storytelling so powerful? And we just talked about we have someone leaving here to have an experience. It's going to be worthwhile sharing and going to go out here, come back, and it's a mystery box. It's part of storytelling. The power of the story is something that goes way, way back, like tens of thousands of years. So it's deeply rooted within us. How we connect to people, how we connect to a culture, how we mirror ourselves, how we see ourselves. And the thing about this, it's so easy to come to a point where you're thinking, oh, storytelling, oh yeah, brilliant. It's digital, online, it's books, and so on. But storytelling goes way back, like living in cages, gathering around campfires, and sharing the story that would talk to the youngsters of the tribe and explain to them why it's not a good idea to go hunt mammoth without weapons, and why you should stay clear of saber-toothed tigers, and so on. So just look at one example how this is coded within our DNA and can be recalled again. So this is from a cave in France, a painting that is 32,000 years old. And a part of this illustration is an illustration of the sorcerer, the woman, and the beast. You know, the villain, the damsel in distress, and the sorcerer. So it's really no wonder that something like Harry Potter and the likes talk to us, because it's really that deeply rooted within us. It's some of the same things again and again. When J.K. Rowling did Harry Potter, the Harry Potter franchise, she used a lot of ancient mythology and old mythology, weaved that into her story, and that's part of why it makes such a universal connection to people. So the whole deal about the power of storytelling is so universal. One of the reasons why it is so universal is because it's about me, it's about them, it's about us, it's about the relationship between people. So it's like if you see a story that has no strong characters in it, it's hard to figure out what is my relationship with this. And the interesting thing is that characters and people and how should we relate to people, some researchers were working on this project and figuring out, so what is branding really? If we look at it as a psychological point of connection, an emotional point of connection, what is it? Well, branding in many ways reflects a friendship between people. So once you start thinking about yourself and marketing your brand, you start thinking about it, oh, what is it if it's a character? Why should I relate to that character? So one, again, it's about this interrelationship between people. It's about me, it's about us, it's about all of this. And one of the current and predominant and continuous big mistakes that we see in advertising and marketing is that people think it's all about me, 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 and my product. And we're back to shouting people into the head until they become deaf about me, and I'm brilliant, and so forth. And great stories are not about how great you are. They're not about how great your brand are. You know, it's okay to show some faults, that you're not perfect. When we get exposed to someone who says, I'm perfect, now how do you relate to that? You know, your warning signals just starts flashing. It's like, nobody's perfect. You know, it's hard for us to relate to someone who says, I'm absolutely perfect. You know, it's that guy that reaches out his hand and says to you, you can trust me, I'm very trustworthy. So it speaks to us as something that's not authentic. And the thing is, it's actually been applied this way of knowing, oh, we're not perfect, but we can still be relatable and we can still be charming. Has actually been used quite a lot through the years. So back in the 1960s, with the launch of the Mad Men and all that, what happened in advertising and coming out of the US was this new wave of very creative branding and speaking about products like that. So it's no longer just saying, oh, these are all the brilliant benefits of my car. And there was a series of things coming out of that based on some very brave marketeers who was working with some good advertising people in terms of, let's make fun of the faults we have. We're going to launch a small car in the US in the 1960s, which is not necessarily something that smells like a success. But they managed to make it cool anyway. You know, it's small, but it gets you there, rather than the big cars of the time. Moving forward, social media absolutely provides a pitfall, a possible pitfall for many people in charge of the marketing, of the branding, and a lot of possibilities. So Maersk, the Maersk shipping empire, they base their social media on honesty and transparency. And at one point, and I think at the point we should be happy there's not smell on these slides, because one of the ships accidentally hit a whale and dragged it for 12 kilometers at the surface of the water. What they did was they actually were open about it. They shared it on social media, and they said, "Yeah, sure thing. We have an issue here," but they told it themselves first. So now let's try this little interactive thing here with the questions. If you have the app, do you ever communicate the faults, errors, or weaknesses of your brand? And if you look at your app and you can answer it, you can answer never, seldom, sometimes, often, always. Can we get the results up and see what's happening here? Do you have the app? You got them here. Oh, brilliant. Sometimes. It's a leading vote here. Good for you. Good for you. Brilliant. Now, moving on, what we're talking about here is actually that, so you're no longer the hero. The audience is the hero, and you could place them in different situations where they want to talk about your brand. You need to take a step back, and you already proved, okay, we'll sometimes talk about the errors that we do. And there are very many different good examples of it. Like Spotify in this campaign, they're talking about not about how brilliant they are, but to people individually what their story actually is with this brand. So you listen to so and so many things. You're the hero of our story. Now, we had someone taken out here, and it's going to be an experience that it's going to be a basis for a story. And one way of making your story come alive is to think of it as how do you create experiences that people will talk about and relive and share. And there are many reasons for that. One thing is we seldom think about the experience in terms of what's the modality and the context of the audience. They're not just sitting there in the dark politely or sitting around on chairs politely. Sometimes they immerse themselves. Sometimes they're on the bus. Sometimes they're on the train. Sometimes they are, sitting at home or getting in esports. So that's one thing to think about. It's not just your content there without anyone doing anything else. And if you think of something that you want people to share, it's not just telling a story. It's like, how can I make my story become an experience that becomes a memorable moment? Now, how do I create memories? I can't just tell people this is great. You want them to feel it. You want them to experience it for themselves and then retell the tale. So once you take this thing about theme, which is stories or which are experiences that are based on stories, or branded experiences, which is based on your value and the values you want to share. You don't want to say to people, these are my 4 or 5 values. You want them to feel it themselves. You can use that to immerse people in your living story. And this is not just for fun, this is big business. This is one of the biggest storytellers in the world, Disney. If you look at their studio entertainment part, their revenue is $10 billion a year. If you compare that to their parks and their experiences, it's more than double of that. So it's big business. Experience is big business. And that's why so many people are talking about, what is the experience of my brand and how should I apply it? So here's my next question for you. And it's perfectly fine if the answer in your mind now is what? Do you have a brand experience strategy? Once again, with the app, no. Considering, trying to draft it out. And yes, of course. Do you actually have a strategy for how people experience your brand? Let's see what happens with the answers to this one. We should have want to put in a don't know, but here we go. Yes! Oh, you're brilliant. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's absolutely perfect. Now, one of the things, though, is, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but one of the things that's very worth considering is that your brand experience is not just your customer service experience. It's something else as well. It's, a creative way of working with how your experience can be, how your stories can be experienced. So the whole thing here is that, the audience is just sitting here and interacting. There's a changing role of the audience. And I really want you to take this away is, don't just think of your audience as target groups, but think of them as being in different roles. And you should consider that when you talk about how they should experience things. They can be observers, being there, not really getting that involved. They can be allowed to explore your story. They can be allowed to interact with your story, even influence it. They can come to the point of co-creating it. And even come to the point where you just say, we're not going to tell how our story is going to be experienced. We're going to leave that to you. And there are many good examples, like these are moments actually relived by people in an airport. This is, and these movies are going to be available to you online. This is allowing everybody to walk on the moon using VR. This is experience with what it will mean to make your way through the muddy waters of creating fast and cheap fashion. This is a transformative experience to make people think of these things in another way and take action. This is where you actually let people do a real-life sandbox route for your drive, and then you get to drive it in VR afterwards. People get to create more and more stuff here. And there's Star Wars, the Star Wars experience, Galaxy's Edge, where one of the things is that they will recognize who you are and if you've been there before, and they can adapt the experience to it. You can create your own lightsabers. Just imagine what you can do with a retail space if you start thinking like this. And this is one of the things we did, where we just framed a Christmas story and then let kids around the country add to it themselves. So they actually wrote the story. We were directing it, and that's one of the things you should consider is really, how much control do you want to give away? And all of these possibilities you're getting, how much control do you want to give away when, once again, you consider these things, the observers, the explorers, and so on, those different roles. The thing is, it's a trick question, because you're already giving some control away because of people using social media and so forth. So we're standing on the edge of things are evolving, and we're standing on the edge of the immediate future of story experiences and story doing. One of the things that's going to happen as this living story continues is things like artificial intelligence. I'm not going to show this in full. I'm just going to leave that being online. But the thing is, suddenly scripts start looks like this. It's going to be like these structures that people can interact with, and then they create their own stories based on the experience, and you're going to have AI playing a part of this. So one of the reasons why you're here today may be that you ask yourself this question. It's certainly a question you should ask yourself. What is the role of the creators, designers, and providers of the story doers, of the story doing, all of you who gives another role to the story? What is your future role? What is the role of your team? What is the role of your communication? Does your communication become experience design instead? And certainly what you need to do, you need to evolve. Absolutely need to evolve. And because things are evolving around you. The audience are evolving, people are evolving, the stories are evolving. So just keep in mind, there's a lot of things out there to remember, that the power story is universal because it's about people, Technologies come and go. Your audience is the hero. Your brand, and you're not the hero anymore. You're the helper. You're the mentor. Great experiences become memories. And also, the role of your audience is changing. The very structure of how stories are put together is evolving. Integration is the key to succeed. You know, you have to have people working together across departments and finding new ways of exploring this future with the people that you're working with and the companies you're working with. So, also the future of engagement goes beyond telling it. You know, you need to evolve with it, or you become the dinosaur in the room. So that's my words for kicking off this day. Your journey begins here today. There's a lot of good stuff and insight and inspiration for you in terms of how do you accelerate forward into the world where story is not just about storytelling anymore, but it's about doing and experiencing them. And we're going to put the videos up on integratedstorytelling.com, and there you'll be able also to sign up for a newsletter, so you get a free new book that is coming out. We couldn't bring it here, but you're going to have it, be able to download it digital for free. So that's my word. Your journey begins today. I'm looking so much forward to seeing what you get out of it at the end of the day and talking to some of you and saying, so how are you going to change? How are you going to evolve? Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Klaus, for your interesting presentation. We have questions for our guests, and the first question is, give us 3 key reasons to use story doing in brand marketing strategy.
Oh, sorry.
3 key reasons to use story doing.
3 key reasons for using story doing. So one of the absolute key reasons is that is the way to get into the hearts and the minds of your audience. You know, that is them caring and remembering you. And another thing is the world is about experiences today. You know, the world is about us taking the prime role, people taking the prime role in their own story. You know, people have their own narrative. And you play into that, then you'll be weaved into their own narrative. A third reason for this is also you don't get lost in the crowd. You have to see your own marketing, and you have to see your own brand in a new way. Not about, these are USPs, these are pushing reasons, like, is it actually worth talking about? How can it actually be experienced in another way? How can I translate all my values into something that is an experience or a story or a viral thing or a discussion going on out there? So it's really about making your marketing come alive in different ways.
Thank you. One more question from application. What comes next after story doing?
What's up next?
After story doing, what comes next?
What's up next? The thing that is up next is and the reason why I'm saying what is not because I'm getting that old. I'm just getting a little echo of my own voice here, actually. So what is up next is a revolution of storytelling and marketing that is unavoidable because we need to relate to the audience in another way. And the audience themselves, you know, are very much empowered today already, and that's going to be different. Now, you're going to add in something there, some of the possibilities that are extremely hard today to work with. Like if you have non-linear storytelling, you know, people can go in different ways, like Bandersnatch on Netflix. If you take that and just leave people with 3 different options throughout 3 different acts, you're going to have to end up telling 20,000 different stories, which is very hard. So in comes technologies like artificial intelligence and so on, not going to take over the job from the marketers and the storyteller, but going to be a very powerful tool for 1 million people to think they just had a unique experience with your brand.
Thank you. Thank you. Klaus Sammer, поблагодарим. Основатель дизайн-студии Adventure Lab. Thank you very much, Klaus.
Thank you. My pleasure.